According to various commenters on my channel, a great example of free markets failing is the UK railway system. This guy says, "How about the privatizations of train services? It didn't work very well last time in the UK." My response basically sums it all up, but I want to elaborate and list my sources. So here we go. The only entity in the UK that can build train stations and train lines is the state. Before 2024, they did this through Network Fail, which was a public sector state corporation which had no private investors. It was an arm of the state and was directly run and financed by the UK government. This corporation, this corpse or organ of the state, which is the meaning of the word corporation, has systematically failed to build enough train stations and train lines. The UK government has announced that they are replacing Network Fail with a new state-owned public body called Great British Railways. So, depending on when you watch this, they may have renationalised the railways, which I guarantee will only make things worse in the long run. But prior to this, be under no illusion, the railways were never privatised. In fact, there were other regulations too, including price controls, wage controls, minimum wage for example, and the UK government funded through subsidies the so-called private railway companies that operated on its lines. But if it's paid for by the state, then it is the state. Train companies are paid millions of pounds annually in compensation because Network Rail closes a line for track repairs or for other improvements. In other words, the operators receive money for not running trains, whilst at the same time allowing their supplier, Network Rail, to provide them with a better service. The great railway barons of the 19th century would never have tolerated exercising so little control. They were genuine risk-taking capitalists. Under the present system, in contrast, a game of pretend capitalism is played, with the taxpayer always in the background to pick up the tab. This isn't me saying this is another historian who correctly recognises what's going on. Strangely, while the railways remained ostensibly privatised, the running of the new system actually resulted in more interference and involvement of civil servants than at any time in the industry's history, as they were required to, for example, specify timetables, think about future strategy and rolling stock needs, such as the replacement for high-speed train, and let the franchises out. The UK government sets the price of rail fares. Worse, they set the fares lower than the market price should be in order to win votes. They even boast about this. The government will delay the normal annual January charge to rail fares until 1st of March next year, 2021, offering a significant window for commuters who cannot work at home to purchase cheaper season tickets at the existing rate and allow greater flexibility in uncertain times. Regulated fares will then increase by RPI plus 1, a 2.6% rise. This is the lowest actual increase in 4 years. That's right, your chocolate ration has just increased. Aren't we so kind to you? The UK's former rail commissar, Chris Heaton-Harris, said, "By setting fares sensibly and with the lowest actual increase for 4 years, we are ensuring that taxpayers are not overburdened for their unprecedented contribution, ensuring investment is focused on keeping vital services running and protecting frontline jobs." Riddle me this. If the fares are kept low, then the taxpayer has to pick up the tab. Thus, you are burdening the taxpayer by not increasing rail fares. Yet you claim that you're protecting the taxpayer. And everybody just believed you. This is Orwellian doublespeak at its finest. The result of this bribery is massive delays, overcrowded stations, overcrowded trains, and misery for millions of commuters each and every year. From July 2019 to October 2020, when fewer people were using the trains due to the totalitarian lockups, there were 1.4 million compensation claims as a result of delays to the train service, even though the government boasted that traffic had decreased because of the pandemic. and that this had resulted in continued high levels of punctuality and reliability and subsequently a low volume of delay compensation claims, there were still 145,000 delay claims between July and October 2020. If you make something free, or in this case cheaper, you're signalling to people that there's a higher supply of the service than there actually is. And because there isn't a higher supply of the service, the consumer then chooses to use that service more often, resulting in chaos. The reason roads get congested and jammed up when there hasn't been any crashes is because the roads are free to use at the point of need. If you had to pay to go on the roads on the day in question, you might think twice before doing so. People would use them less often, only if they really needed to, causing less traffic. So the lesson here is that the government control of the railways and the economy as a whole is a disaster because their priority is to win votes by manipulating prices, not deliver you a good service. Effectively, they're bribing you with your own money into giving them more power over you whilst making your lives more miserable. The reason Virgin Trains decided to cease operating in 2020 is because the government was dictating what they should pay their workers and what they should pay towards their pensions. Virgin did the maths and realised it wasn't profitable, and so they let their contract expire. But the point is, this is meant to be a privatised rail network, so why is the government dictating things? And the reason why is because it's not a privatised network at all. The word privatisation is a scam. It suggests that the government left things up to the free market when in reality, just like in National Socialist Germany, the UK government didn't do that at all. It retained control over the railway infrastructure and just allowed some semi-independent businesses the opportunity to rent the lines, but they were never really independent either because the government dictates what they should or shouldn't do. So, just like with the NHS or whatever, the government hasn't privatised anything. And thus, whenever you hear the word privatisation, what you need to do is be sceptical, because it doesn't mean what the name suggests. What it actually means is state control of the means of production with a veneer of private control. So this is why there are shortages of trains and overcrowding in stations. It's because the state has distorted the price system and enacted regulations that prevent the private sector from reacting properly to the problem, which was originally caused by the state itself. And then, just like in all other instances where they create the problem, the state propaganda ministry, the BBC, itself an arm of the government despite what it otherwise claims, blames the free market for the problems created by the state. They do this to convince the unsuspecting economically illiterate public, the average Joe, that the best way to resolve the issue is state control, is more state control. In other words, it's a trick, a deception, an illusion to get you to hand over more power to the state, which they're doing right now by renationalising the railways. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.